Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, and this week's going to see us working towards writing our letters. So we've thought a lot about all the elements last week, and this week we're going to plan it and put it together. So today is about planning the arguments. So you need to organise how the ideas you have can be put together. Now, when we're writing a story or any kind of writing, we use paragraphs. It's exactly the same in the letter. So let's start by having some of the information that we've got and the understanding we've got. So if we look at this, that we've looked at quite a lot, the idea of the things that are good and the fors and against, and how we're going to convince someone who doesn't think it's a good idea, and how we can put a positive spin on things and make everything look good. So if we were worried about the sound pollution that wind turbine might make, we would turn around and say, actually, they've designed it to stop it being noisy. So at the moment, they're all sort of separate from each other. So I've linked them together so that it helps you see the picture. So therefore, if someone was saying, well, they're very expensive to build, then you might turn around and say, well, yes, they might be very expensive to build. However, we really need to do something that lowers our CO2 emission. And you know from your science that we're running out of coal. So therefore, we need to invest in some renewable energy. So these are all the problems that we've got here. Problems that it has to be windy. I don't think that's a problem in the UK. It seems to be always windy, especially around here. Problems with it ruining the countryside. Well, we've talked about it being a dynamic sculpture and how we might make it sound like it actually enhances the view. Then you've got the problem of people, and I think a lot of local people, when they're being built, are very worried about the sound it makes, and so being able to explain that actually it's been designed to not be noisy and to lower and not cause a noise pollution might help people feel a bit more comfortable about it. And then finally, your problems that it can kill wildlife. Well, it was back to that one that we did last week, where we know that, well, actually, yes, a few birds might die. However, cats kill far more birds, so we shouldn't really worry about it. Okay, so those are all your arguments. How are you going to organise them? Because you want to put them in a sort of a logical answer. A logical way. You don't want to start with talking about cats killing more birds, do you? That's not a fact that you're going to put at the beginning. So just like we plan a story, I've organised us to look at it as we plan the letter. So I've used squares, guys, just because it's easier to do on the computer. So it can be circles, it can be bullet points, however you want, but I've sort of done it in our little story mountain way. So you can see the first paragraph that you're going to write is why you're writing to somebody. So say we were going to write to Boris Johnson asking him to really think about, or our local MP to make sure that he's voting at the right point in Parliament for us to have wind farms rather than coal fire stations. And so you always need to start with your letter with why you're writing. It doesn't have to be very long, but obviously, you know, you're not going to suddenly start talking about cats killing more birds, because you're going to be confused. You've really got to organise it. So you start by saying, I am writing to you. Why am I writing to you? And then it's quite important, really. You can sometimes, there's 1,000 different ways to write a letter, but I think getting to the main point, the most important point, you can come to next. And then the next the next paragraph is solving the problems. Okay, so if you make sure that you point out, you know what the problems are, but you know how to solve them, that's really good. And then towards the end, a final reminder, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but that idea of that dramatic bit. And then just finishing off your letter with looking forward to hearing from you. So if we think about our learning that we've just talked about, I've plonked them in the places underneath where we might write about them. So obviously, why are we writing about them? Because we want them to consider using wind turbines to generate electricity. Okay, then you've got your main points, which is basically we want to have electricity because we need it. Everyone wants electricity, but we would like it to be clean, renewable energy. We would like it to help lower that CO2 emissions. We don't want carbon dioxide being burnt from the coal in our atmosphere, because we know that that's causing lots of problems with flooding and global warming. So this is the sort of main points that can go, that you start explaining in the next paragraph, and then you've got the problems listed underneath. And then finally, I've just put a few sentence starters. Do you want, and that was the rhetorical questions, you know, do you want our planet to never be the same? Do you want to cause so much flooding and danger of our planet never being able to go back? So there's loads of real problems, but that's where you get in your rhetorical questions. Are you thinking about the future? We need to save our beautifuls. That's where you can get a bit dramatic with your superlatives and comparatives. Okay, and then finally, they're looking forward to hearing from you. It's fairly straightforward. So that's there for you. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about fronted adverbials. Didn't think you were going to get away with it. So if we click on here, we're using fronted adverbials. How do they work in this? Where do they come? And so you've seen this, it's in your pack. And these are really good ways to start a sentence, especially the first ones. I think, for this reason, I feel that, it is certain. Some of them are fronted adverbials, some of them aren't, but they're really good little starters, aren't they? So what you might do today is have a look at some of these and see where might they fit if you were writing. So you've got here similarly, where if you're comparing things, surely you're going to think about your world. Surely you're going to, or certainly, and so you've got some, have a little look through, and there's quite a few that would be quite good to use and you might want to pick. So if we go back to this here, what you could do is you can think, I am writing to you because, what might I use at the beginning in my first paragraph? What might I use in my second, if we're using this solving problems? So just pick a few that you think might work as you work through the writing, because it's exactly the same as we did before when we were doing, we talked before about how when a paragraph often starts with a fronted adverbial, and in our story it was about time and place and how, so it's similar in this one. You still can use that starting off part of the sentence, so really think about that. So today is really thinking about it, okay? And I've said write out this plan. You don't have to write it out exactly how I've done it. You might draw little pictures to remind you. Today is about the day where you put in your head the things you're going to write. You spend time thinking about it so that when you come to write your letter, you don't have to have that big panic. Oh, what am I supposed to write? You've planned it out. So just like we do in the classroom, sometimes we copy out like it's like a story map. This isn't obviously a story, but it is the map through the letter. You might want to add funny little pictures to help you remember. You might just want to copy it out. It depends how you're thinking and how your brain works. And then have a go at adding some fronted adverbials, which might match onto some of your paragraphs so that you've thought about that. And when you come to write, you'll have this with you and you'll be able to really say, okay, I really know what I'm going to write about and I'm going to have a jolly good go. Tomorrow we're going to use the other planning sheet, which is where we're specifically looking at all those elements and thinking, where do they fit into this? So we've got a couple of days of planning. So it's about, and this is the first time you guys have really structured an argumentative letter, a persuasive letter. So this is why I'm structuring it a lot for you. I'm doing a lot of the thinking for you so that you can just concentrate on getting those sentences down. So have a go and see how you get on. Looking forward to seeing some of your outcomes. And remember, it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but it's all here if you need it.